And so it's just like, we weren't allowed to sit. There was like a change in management like 2 weeks after I arrived. So it was just kind of like, huh, what have I signed up for? I'm in another land. I don't know. Yeah, I was actually born in Dallas, though I don't like claim it because the military brat thing. I only lived there a year, so I never felt right saying like, yeah, I was born in Dallas. Then any follow up question, I'm like, I don't know anything about the city. I left when I was a year.
So where did you grow up?
Well, that's another thing. I really haven't grown up in one place for a long time. So when I was born, my dad was already in the military. My mom had been in, she got out. He's a chaplain. And so he finished seminary
Ooh. Hmm.
like the day before or the day after I was born. And so at that time we were in Dallas and we moved and from then on we weren't stationed anywhere for more than like 4 years was the longest. And so it's really just been kind of like bouncing all around. When I started school at when everyone's like, "Where are you from?" I was like, "I'm from Kentucky," because like I had been living in Kentucky for the past 2 years. I was like, I don't know where else. Before that, I was living in Hawaii for 3 years, but I'm like, I can't. So it's just like I don't know. I'm from Kentucky, and now I'm like, I'm from Texas, so I
You
can
just picked a
solidly
spot and was like, all right, let's just go
say,
with this.
yeah, Texas. Now my parents have retired there, and so it's like our the home of records. So I'm a Texan.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think that's more than a great place to start.
Mm,
You ready?
yeah.
Here we go. This is the Living Numbers Podcast, and I am your host, Tony Rambles. Welcome back for another amazing episode with actually a friend of mine from college. We've been catching up these past 10 minutes, and there's so much to dissect. There's so much to unpack because there's so many things that I don't even know, right? I just see from afar. And so I reached out, and Miss Carestacy
Mhm.
was gracious enough to just say, sure, I'll come on. I don't really know what to talk about, but absolutely. So, of course, make sure you all like and subscribe, download, share. Y'all know the routine. This is not your first rodeo. So, normally, I have this elaborate intro, but life has totally happened over the past couple of weeks, as we have been talking about. So, I will let Jasmine introduce herself. This is like a first on a podcast. So
Ah,
go for it.
all right. Hi. Yeah. My name is Jasmine Carestacy. And yes, Tony and I, we went to U of H. And like you said, we've been catching up for the last 10 minutes for the past 10 years. But I've been social media friends. And so I was excited to be asked to come on and hope to share something that's interesting or helpful to anyone.
Wow, that's pretty good. Did you practice that at all?
No, I didn't. I really don't like to be, like, recorded. Like, I on Instagram, I like pictures or whatever, but, like, recordings of, like, oh boy.
Well, thank you for coming on. And we started talking about family. And I know for me, many people can see like all the Detroit stuff because I'm from Detroit. I rep Detroit. I claim Detroit because it's nothing like leaving your hometown to give you some real pride in where you're from. But you have kind of been all over. You're from, I guess, a lot of places. So your dad was in the military for how long?
He served for, like, 32 years. So, like,
Oh my.
before I was born, yeah, he was a lifer. And he's originally from Jamaica and moved to the States, did some like community college after graduating, and then decided to go into the military. And so, yeah, he's been in for like his whole life and retired in 2016. So
Oh, shout out to
my
Pops.
whole life, yeah, I've just it's Army brat is just kind of like synced with my own like identity. And yeah,
Yeah.
there it does come with a lack of like a hometown and but then there's also like a community in itself. So yeah.
So how do you think that that shaped you? Because your dad was a chaplain, you moved around a lot. So how do you feel like that kind of shaped who you are and how you think and how you see the world?
Yeah, I think it really helped to like just know that there is a lot out there. So I've moved, I think about like 8 times. I've lived in like growing up, about 8 different locations. One was we were lucky enough to be in Germany when I was younger, and we've just been able to kind of see a lot and meet a lot of people. That's also just naturally in the military, even if you stay in like Kentucky. But if you're on base, you're going to meet people from all over, soldiers, their spouses. And so I think being exposed to different cultures, different people, just my whole life, that just kind of made it a norm and kind of helped maybe with my like open-mindedness or willing to go out and take risks and talk to people who maybe I wouldn't ordinarily talk to. Um, and also like keeping up with like friends and things. So of course, moving it taught me to like, okay, I really like this person, so I feel like I'm a good like friend in trying to keep up with sending a message or I'm used to like the long distance contact 'cause I've had to do it for forever. So yeah, that helps.
Mm. Do you remember any places in particular that made an impact on you, like where you were stationed?
Yes. So I would say I think the top of the top was Hawaii.
Mm,
We were stationed there from like 2004. So it was like my eighth grade year. I was there for eighth, ninth, 10th grade. And that's where I made like my core kind of best friends who I still talk to daily. And um, it was just kind of, coming of age and growing. And the weather was beautiful. It was a really great, like, just duty station and like it just top of the top. And um, those kind of formative years of yeah, what is that, like 15 and on. So yeah.
yeah, 8th grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, those are very important years, like, in all of our lives. Like, as a high school teacher, I see those kids coming in from 8th grade, and they're like, "Oh, like, high school is different." It's not like middle school, and then ninth grade, you're trying to figure things out. 10th grade, you start to kinda get a handle on it. Junior year, you pretty much think you're grown, and you know exactly what you're doing.
Mhm. Yeah.
You Who are those friends? Like, talk about some of those friends, because it's really the people in these different places and these different periods of life that really make life what it is. So, who are some of these best friends? This is like shout out time.
Ah, okay, well, I would shout out, I think, my friend Erica and Kristen, um, who we all met in Hawaii, and we all have parents who were in either the Army or the Navy. And I think that kind of helped because then after Hawaii, we were kind of like all over, spread out. I was in
Mm,
Kentucky and then one was in Georgia, one was in Ohio. And so we were able to still like keep in contact. We met up like senior year, junior year of high school. We all met up together a few times. And so they're definitely my core, my friend Chanel too. Like you can't shout everyone out, I feel. But yeah, those are my core my core group. And I'm really thankful to have that, like, you know, it is so important to have just the foundation of friends and people who you can go to no matter
mm,
what. And the fact that we've been like that since that long ago, and it's just like, yeah, I don't have a hometown, I don't have this, or there are things where it's like, some people can look back and say, "Oh, I grew up in this house," or like, I've lived
mm.
here, I've done
Yep.
the notches on the wall, and like that's like impossible. Maybe at a grandparent's house for me, but like, yeah. So they're kind of like my mobile version of like a home feeling.
What would you say like were some key? I feel like strategies is too much, is like too strong of a word, but
Mhm.
what are some things that y'all felt like y'all needed to do to continue to keep those friendships alive? Because when a lot of times once you move away, like, it's over. Like, I'm not, we don't have cars, we're too young to, fly and stuff. At least for most people think that way, but how'd y'all keep the friendship going over such distance?
I think, well, of course, like social media really helped. Like we were friends during the birth of MySpace, and like we were all still together there. And then the Facebook transition, that was kind of when we were moving apart. And so
Mhm.
using that, but then also, which now I do not like to do anymore, but texting. Texting used to be fun. And so we would just like be texting all the time, you know. Like I said, we would meet up. I'm really glad that we did because I don't know how as like, you know, juniors and seniors to have the
Yeah.
just the planning and the to actually follow through. But I mean, we met up in Disney World once, we met up in Atlanta, we met up in they came to Texas. So it just like this was after college, but we just try and make it a point because we've all made other friends since, of
Right.
course, but we just acknowledge and know like there's something special and like I said, like a sense of home and family. Like, and so yeah.
Your parents, all of your parents must have seen how special that was too,
Mhm.
because a lot of times parents are like, "Ah, you make new friends." Right? I'm sure they said that, but you can't have these meetups, not at that age, without these parents kind of like buying in.
Mhm.
So, how did they impact kind of how you see family and relationships? Because I'm sure they helped y'all go a long way too.
Mhm. Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it helps, like I said, because we were all like military brats. So like the parents, like some of our parents are like close kind of friends. And so they
Mm,
hang out and that helps with like, oh yeah, it's like they know and trust each other. And if I'm like, I want to meet up, I mean, and I've always been one to like work even in like high school. I didn't have to, but I wanted to like, you know, work a little part-time job just to have some like spending money. And so I mean I
yeah.
would earn and be like, okay, I want to go and I want to go to Disney World for these days. I want to meet up, you know, with Erica and Chanel and Kristen. And so they were always supportive because again they knew them, they had met them, they had spent a lot of time with them and just knew that it was like a different friendship. I think so because even now I still have friends like on social media from before that, from like earlier middle school and like elementary even. But of course, like that bond wasn't able to like kind of sustain like time, which is fine.
Mm.
But that was like a very much like they knew like, oh, this is like your people.
So, sticking with your parents,
Mhm,
your dad was a chaplain, and
mhm.
you said the army, right?
Yes.
So, was it a lot of, kind of Bible studies? And did y'all always like find a church wherever you were going, or y'all just went to church on base? Like, how did that make a difference? Because that spiritual aspect is, yeah, it plays a different role, in our lives, especially like, I mean, I've talked about it a ton of times, but my grandmother was like the absolute worst, but she was all about the Bible. Now, was she a great example? Who am I to judge?
Mhm.
But she was mean. My grandmother was so mean to most of us, unless you were Asia or Michael. Shout out to the babies. They got the special treatment. Um, but still, that spiritual aspect was very important, and we kind of grew up going to church, and church is a huge part of my life now.
Mhm.
But how did that impact your life? And I guess again, how you saw relationships, how you saw, travel, that morality part. So, how did your dad being a chaplain and then having that spiritual influence over your life, how did that change things or guide you?
Yeah. Um, Definitely grew up a heavy church kid. My dad was always the pastor of whatever church we were going to. He was usually the head pastor. And they were on base. And so like they would have like a main chaplain and maybe like another one. He
Mhm.
was usually one of the two. And so it was kind of like, "Oh, the first family, and you gotta go," and we had, like, a rule kind of in the house of you have to do, like, 2, church kinda things, like, you have to be an usher and on the choir, or you can do choir and
Mm,
the drill team, or like so growing up, I definitely we had that. We would do the Bible study, Awana after church, um just growing up, all that was just that was life, and Bible study at home, and it was at a level that I always, like, appreciated. Um,
mm,
were there times in the car when I wanted to switch the station and play, the top 40, but I knew, like, my dad did not wanna listen to that?
wasn't
Yeah, but
having it.
it never felt, like, oppressive or, in a way that, like, I felt the need to kinda walk away from it, in adulthood, which does happen, and it's understandable because sometimes it is given to you in such, like, an aggressive way, or the wrong person is giving you the wrong message, and but
Mm,
I'm really thankful that that did not happen to me, and it was really just, I don't know, enjoyable growing up, and yeah, doing Bible study, praying together a lot, things that I realized are not totally normal in all houses. I'm like, oh, okay. Everyone
mm-mm.
doesn't do this, or we sit down and sing a hymn, kneeling, like, to actually pray when we were little, like, we were to get down on your knee and, like, kneel and stuff, and so, like I said, it never felt like, uh, a bad thing or a negative thing. I always still felt like I had enough freedom to kind of be who I wanted to be, um, but yeah, my husband he's still like, "You never believed in Santa Claus?" And he thinks it's so sad, but I was like, I never even thought to believe in him as a real person, but my parents never sat and were like, "Santa's not real." It was just like he was a thing, but then all the presents said, like, from mom and dad, and so it was like, did I go trick or treating? No, but we had Hallelujah night at the church, so that was fun. So, yeah.
So many
That
parallels. Like, okay, the whole Santa thing. No, my parents, they weren't letting that happen. There was
no.
no Santa Claus, there was no Easter Bunny, there was none of that stuff. Hallelujah night was definitely a thing.
Mhm,
But like I I don't even know your parents, but I already admire them
mhm,
because it sounds like they did it the right way. You
mm,
know, so many times like that church part is so aggressive, like, it's so, like, in your face, like, you feel like you don't have any room to
mhm,
be yourself, like, to be the person God created you to be, and that is why people walk away. I mean, that's at least why I wouldn't say, like, I never stopped, like, believing in God,
mhm,
but there was a time where, like, I wasn't going to church. I'm like, "Oh, I could stay home?
mhm.
Bet. I'm staying home, like, why would I go to church? That's
Yeah,
not a fun place to go."
yeah.
But it sounds like your parents, they made it a fun place. They probably stress the importance of it, what
Mhm,
it means. And I always appreciate the people who do that because there's nothing like the person that's like fire and brimstone, like
yeah.
coming for you, like you're on punishment if you don't learn these scriptures by the end of tonight, like
Yeah.
20 days notice. I'm like, yo, this is so now when I look back at it, I'm like, okay, like we got the message,
Mhm,
but you know,
yeah.
and I'm glad I was I came around to it on my own time. I'm thankful.
Mhm.
Um, but it sounds like your dad was a heavy influence in your life. Do you see any characteristics that you have that you will go, "Yep, I'm just like him in that way?"
Yeah, I think, a lot of things, 'cause he's a very logical, very, loves to write everything out. You have to
Mm,
have a plan A, B, and C, and you can't just say yes because 'cause he'll ask you, "What is the plan A? What is the
yeah.
plan B? What is it?" And so I did joke around because, um, right after college, that's when I really was like, I want to just travel the world. I just want to go everywhere and I want to do everything. And I at first had a very, like, broad plan, and presented it to my parents, and very kindly, I was like, "Oh, you guys just killed my dream." They were basically like, "This isn't plausible. Like, you don't have any plan. You don't know where you're going to go from here to there. You're going to do it alone."
Right.
And so, really, they've helped me to like always kind of try and have something written out. Like I like to physically write. I like to, when it comes to things like that, like actually write out, what do I want to do? And if that doesn't work, what's the next plan? At least two
Mm,
well thought out, options, because rarely does everything go as planned. So
mm.
that's actually how I got my car in high school a little bit early. I was
Ooh,
supposed to get it
yes.
after I graduated, but I wanted it my senior year. So I made a PowerPoint, and I made a PowerPoint for my dad. He was deployed in Iraq, but he was home for like 2 weeks of R&R. And so I was like, I just want to make this presentation and like said all the reasons why and how I'll like take care of the car or whatever. And so it worked. We found a car that it was reasonable, and I had all the plan, like everything out, and it made sense at the time. But yeah, I definitely see myself in or myself and my dad's like just desire to have order in things.
Mm,
Like, sometimes the chaos is fun, but, like, for real big things, like, in life, I need to, like, have security and financial security, also financial literacy, which is something that my parents taught always, and I am so thankful for. Um, Money was always talked about and not a let's spend my it was just always
yeah.
I have memories of my parents going into we had like a little computer area or something like once a month and would go and like balance the checkbook, or you just knew it was that time, like they're doing money stuff. Like I
Right.
just always had memories of them like setting aside a time to talk about money, to plan for money,
Mm.
to like to do that. Just it's always been so. I really am thankful for both of them, but I know that my mom says my dad is the one who started that, and like of course she picked it up once they got married, and it's just really helped um, me, and it's something to pass on, like to think about those things and talk about those things.
It's funny because it's not, again, that's another thing that is not common in all families. And I can only speak for myself, and we are both melanated people. So I know that it can be like a secret. Like they don't
Mhm,
want you to know
mhm,
about the money or lack thereof.
mhm,
And so it's just kind of it's something that's in my house was argued about, not
mhm.
necessarily talked about or planned out. It was just like, how much do we have? How much do we not have? And
Yeah,
that was pretty much it. But as kids, like we need to know about these things
yeah.
so that we can then plan for the future, so that we know how to spend money, how to save money, what credit is, but also how to budget. I think that's one of the most important things. I think more so than credit,
Mhm,
because I think if you know how to budget, the credit part will take care of itself,
mhm,
right? Because you'll always know how much money you have, how much money you can spend, how much money you can't spend, how much money you
mhm,
need to save. So I
mhm.
think that because a lot of people they don't get credit right away unless your parents set you up like that.
Yeah.
But you do start making money right away, and you do
Mhm,
have to start budgeting right away. Even when you had your little high school job, you had to go, okay, this is how much I'm making. This is what I'm trying to do. This is my plan A, B, C, D, E, and F.
mhm,
And what do I need to do to be able to budget to make these things happen? So you talked about how you had to have a plan
mhm.
for after college, and you had a dream. So that's going to move us to our next topic here. And I see on Instagram, like, and this was part of the reason why I wanted to have you on, and you're laughing because I already told you this. I'm like, she's just all over the world. And my thought was, because I think I saw that you taught English overseas for a little bit, which
Mhm,
I also did. You were in South Korea.
mhm,
Yeah, see, I got the memory. So you taught overseas, and I know for sure like that can be a job that travels. Like you could go here and teach, you can go there and teach, and that can just kind of be a career if you wanted it to be. Now,
Mhm.
me personally, not it, especially with a wife that's not a teacher. If you got two people doing it, I think it
Ye
can really work.
Mhm.
But if you got one person that wants to and one person that doesn't, there's a cap. At
Yeah.
some point, there's going to be a home. There's going to be a discussion about going home.
Yeah.
So, how did you get to start traveling? What was the plan that you had to present to your parents? Let's start there.
Yeah, so that plan, that was like it was a failed one. I think that was actually after okay, so college, I get to the end of college, like senior year, and having like the loving planning parents I did, they really through high school and everything sat down and wanted to like, what do you want to do, where do you like, what do you want to major in, and okay, well maybe this, and like
Mhm.
lovingly kind of steered me, and I really didn't know either. And so by the time I graduated with like health communication as my major, and my minor was nutrition. The plan was we're going to go to a master's in public health. And I always liked like healthcare, but on not, I don't want to be any
Like
sort of like,
administrative side.
yeah. I want to help somewhere, maybe like policy, or like that was at the time I felt like, oh, okay, that's something I could do. And then right after graduating, I realized, well, the debt. I realized like how much the loans. I was just like, oh, okay. I could go to grad school, but I'm also a little tired. And okay, I have a friend who's right now in Spain. So I had a good friend at U of H, Marissa, and she had graduated like 6 months before. And I think at the time, or like right after she graduated, she went to Spain to teach English. And I was just kind of like, wow, this seems like really cool. I'd heard about like study abroad things. I hadn't studied abroad. And so I started looking into it and like Googling and researching, and found like a certification for teaching online, or teaching English as a foreign language, like a
Mhm.
TEFL certification. And so, like, through them, they give you all this information about the different countries. And that's where I saw, oh, okay, South Korea is one of the highest, like, paying as far as like your expenses compared to what they're paying, and the biggest potential to save. Because with like Europe, it's, I mean, it's Europe and everyone loves Europe and it's great, but you don't get paid very much. And so you're kind of, if you go there with like a sum of money, it's great for that. But if not, then it's kind of like your hand to mouth, you know. And so I
Mm.
wanted to be comfortable. Again, I like to have comfort. I like to have a safety net. Um, and so I started looking into South Korea while doing like the 2 month online like TEFL certification. And the whole process is really convenient for, you know, people. I think it's because most people don't think to go to Korea. And so they make the process very convenient, where I get the visa while I'm in the States, I get the job before I go, like everything's set up. Um, I was pretty afraid to like go somewhere and figure it out then. At that point, I hadn't really solo traveled much, and I was just like, I need something like I need to know, where am I going? Is someone picking
Yeah,
me up from the airport? You know,
yeah.
and so once I told my parents like the whole setup, they were actually pretty on board. I think because I was able to show like this is legitimate, this is a school, I'm getting
Mhm.
my visa stamp, like this is all happening. Um, and so I left for the first time for Korea in 2015, and I was there for just 1 year, and I came back. My dad was retiring in 2016, and it was a big thing, and I would have missed it. The thing about Korea is there's just not much time off. You get 2 weeks as a teacher, and they pick those 2 weeks, so it's like one in the summer, one in the winter.
Oh,
um,
man.
yeah, and so I wouldn't have been able to like attend it, and it was just too important. So I was also very
Mm.
tired because it's an intense school that I was at. And so I went home for 2 years. And then when I decided to return back to Korea, um by then, because I had been, my parents were even more like, yeah, okay, whatever, just go. Like, we know that you can go and you're safe and you've been, you've come back. Like,
You know what
while I
you're
was there,
doing.
I think they were nervous, but yeah, the second time they're like, go ahead.
It's funny because when I told people I was going to China, they was like, "Is that a good idea? Like, we don't know if
Well,
that's
now
the right
China.
place." And I'm like, going there and coming back, I'm like, "It's nothing like you guys think it is." It's
Yeah,
literally like just regular life like here. The biggest difference, and you know this living in Houston, is, um, like public transportation.
yeah.
That's the biggest difference, honestly. The weather was literally the same.
Yeah.
The same. It was humid all the time.
Oh,
Summers were hot. The winters were like kind of cold, but no snow.
okay.
So, I mean, I'm telling people like I felt safer there
Uh,
than, you do here, walking around in some places.
mhm,
And I also looked at South Korea as a
mhm.
place. This was in I think I was leaving like right when you came back. It was like 2016, I think
Yeah,
2015, 16. And so I did not, have like I'm not gonna say I didn't have a setup, but the place that I went to was a training school,
okay,
and they were all their stuff was over there. Like, so
okay.
they didn't have a home base here, like, or people that you could talk to. Every
Mhm,
time I talked to those people, it was at, like, 11 o'clock at night,
right.
and there was no person here that I could talk to. So I had to, like, go over there on my passport, and then I had to go to Hong Kong and get my visa, and it was, like, a big thing. And so it's kind of it feels sketchy,
Mhm.
and when you're in it, you're like, "Is this gonna work? Am I
Yeah.
gonna get deported?" But, everything was cool, and the guy was like, "Trust me, like, this is how everybody does it. It's not out of the ordinary." And so, like, everything was cool. What was your favorite part about going? And then where else did you go while you were over here?
Mhm. Yeah, so, it definitely was a little, like, sketchy, more so when I look back on it now. I think I had, like, I just my husband gets so, like, nervous about me because I will underestimate danger to a dangerous level, but I'm like, "It's fine," or, like, my foot is bleeding, like, I had a gash on my foot, and I'm like, "Just I'll put a Band-Aid on it, I don't wanna go to the hospital, it's fine," like,
It's
I
cool,
can
we'll figure
do
it out.
that. I go too far over to that side, but I still was kind of, head on a swivel a bit, but the favorite part was, I think now the safety. It was, like, way safer than here, just kind of on the, like, the street level just because there's so much CCTV, there's cameras everywhere, be it good or bad, but, I mean,
Mm,
I didn't mind it while I'm teaching, yeah, there's a camera here, and I know my boss is in her office with, like, 6 camera things that like, I don't know, I didn't mind it, um, because it really did. It was like I never felt nervous, like, walking around alone. I
mm-mm,
never felt like someone's gonna attack me. At the coffee shop, I can leave my laptop right here. No one will take it. Or, like, I did have a wallet, stolen, but that was on me, and a phone, and, yeah, it was, like, out in a club and somewhere, and I, like, dropped it, and then, yeah, no one's gonna pick it up there. But anywhere else, if you're outside of there, like, people will just leave it there or give it to someone, and so I miss that sense of security, and here
mhm.
in DC, I caught myself going on the metro one day at, like, 10, and I was like, "Oh, this is
Not a good idea.
it's a different world, and it's not as, it's not as kosher, it's not as safe to kinda be out and about." So,
Mm-mm.
yeah, I miss that part, and just as like every day kind of feels like an adventure, even if you're not doing anything, just
Yes.
because you're somewhere so different. Like, it's so, like, away from home. So every day just felt a little exciting. And it was nice to be around a lot of white noise where it's like, I don't understand the language. I learned to read a bit of Hangul and, like, words here and there, but, like, for the most part, the signs, a lot of things. It's just I don't know what it is, and that was kind of nice to just check
It's
out.
cool because you go like, "I wonder what that place is," because you
It's kind of a
literally have
game.
no idea.
Yeah,
Like, is it a noodle shop or do they sell, like, garments, or
who knows?
thread?
Or
Like,
both.
I have no idea. So you do find yourself I'm pretty sure you did the same thing oftentimes, just, like, kinda walking into places like, "Huh,
Mhm.
okay. Yep, I don't need anything in here, but that was cool."
Yeah.
Did you
See
did you have people, like, trying to take pictures with you and stuff?
see, that is more, I think, in China because
Okay.
and, like, oh, man, all of my picture taking has been Chinese tourists in Korea, like, when we were in the big tourist areas, and, I mean, I was in a Zara once, like, shopping, and then a woman's at the end of the aisle and just, like, holding her phone like
Yep.
this,
Yep.
and then, like, I just, like, turned around and she kind of, like, I was like, "Help! Where is that footage gonna go?" I don't know. So, yeah, I feel like for the Korean people, staring for the older people and little kids, maybe like on the subway, older people stare. 20s, 30s, even 40s, they kind of don't care. They're like, you don't exist. It's fine. You're doing your own thing. The old people though are like, what
Yeah,
are you
they're like,
about? What's going on there?
"How'd you get here?"
Yeah.
Like, the world is different now.
Yes. I'll share one funny story that I had when me and some other like foreign friends, we were in our neighborhood and waiting for the bus, and an old like Korean woman walks, and they put their hands behind their back, and she kind of like passed by, and she looked at me and said, "You have a small face." And I was like, she said, "A small face." And my friend, he was like, "That's a good thing. Like they like to have small faces." And I was like, "Oh, okay." It was just like, huh. Every day, again, it just kind of I had someone
Yep.
give me a bushel of grapes warm from her hands, like it wouldn't let me take one, was just like, "Here." And I'm like, "Okay,
This is a
thanks."
gift to the
Yeah.
American.
Yeah, there was that. Like you're kind of a little novelty item. It did get annoying though, being stared at, like because some of the and staring back doesn't work for a lot of
Yeah,
them.
they don't
Like
care.
they'll just like, so we're locked in. But
I,
yeah.
I started making people take pictures with me.
Yeah.
So when they would, like, have their phone out and they be doing the thing where it's like
Uh-huh.
I'm like, "Hey," and they're like, "Uh-oh, I've been spotted." I'm like, "Hey, come on, let's get a picture together." So I'm like, that was my way to just get more comfortable, I guess, because the pictures
Yeah.
are not gonna stop. You'll
Yep.
be on the subway and you might spot them, you might not. But that was, I guess, my way to turn it back on them.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot more of that, I think, in China. In Korea, again, the stares, but the pictures, anytime anyone was taking a picture without me knowing or asking, usually they were in like a big group and they were like a Chinese tourist group. So, yeah.
So how long were you over there, like, total amount of years?
Total is just 4 years. But again, I went for a year, so it's like a year contract, you teach.
Mhm.
Um, I went to my school. It was really intense. I mean, it was 11 classes a day, 40 minutes each. I lost my
Wow.
voice every single Friday, like without fail. By Friday, my voice was gone because I mean, it was 5 kindergarten classes, then you have a break, and then you have 6 elementary classes. And so it's just like, we weren't allowed to sit. There was like a change in management like 2 weeks after I arrived. So it was just kind of like, huh, what have I signed up for? I'm in another land. I don't know. Um, so yeah, I went home for 2 years. I came back to Texas. I was in San Antonio and just like working like an admin law, which is what I'm doing now. And now, or then I moved back to Korea in 2018 and was there for 3 years straight. So yeah,
Did you go to a different school or you're at the same school?
same school. which everyone's like, I don't know how you stayed at that school. I don't know either. I think because again, like I there are certain risks I'm willing to take, but with Korea and like a lot of places where you're teaching English abroad, like the schools can be sketchy. Some schools
Yeah.
don't pay you on time. Some schools will just close on, so the school I was at, it had its own problems like every school, but for me, the cons did not outweigh it. So there weren't many other teachers that stayed on past their 1 year cycle. So I got to see a lot of people in and out and got to be bumped up to head teacher, which was nice. But
Ooh.
it just, yeah, it was like, okay, once I got in the groove and learned everything, I'm just like, all right, it was a nice little small campus. Um, so yeah, same school all 4 years, same apartment building. The second time I came, I was just in a different level because the school, the school provides your apartment and everything. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So if someone wanted to get into that
Mhm.
life, what are some tips that you might give them? 2 or 3
Yeah.
tips.
I would say research, look up. I was doing this like years ago, so I don't even know the sites anymore. I know I was on Dave's ESL Cafe.
Yep, that's the
And
one.
even then it looked outdated. So I don't know. Maybe it's new now. I haven't been there, but finding unbiased blogs. That's the other thing now. I don't know. A lot of things I don't know to trust if I'm like, is this a paid
Mhm.
like, video or but finding people's opinions and like weighing them for yourselves. So
Right.
do a lot of research and I think preparing financially is smart. Whatever they tell you to prepare for, prepare a little bit more. Korea said, like, come with two, prepare for, living a month without a paycheck. Like, can you? And the cost of living is lower in a lot of places, abroad. And
Yeah.
so that might not be as big of an issue, but it's still good to have like a safety net. Um, and I would say go for it. Like, honestly, go for it early. Like, right after college or during college. I wish I would have done like study abroad, like in college a
Yes.
semester. It just would have been really great. And so it only gets more like complex the farther you get from graduating. So do it early.
So, from one huge life transition to another,
Mhm.
where one of our few numbers come in here, and you've been married for, I believe, 11 months.
So yeah, like we met in Korea. Um, we've been married now. This will actually be 2 years.
What?
Yeah, so we legally got married. So I met my husband Alec in Korea. This was my second time going there after like a year and a half. I think we met. We met on Tinder. And it's like who would have thunk Tinder in a different country? And it was what is it? A crapshoot. Like I don't know if this is going to work out, but it worked out really well. Long story short, I swiped on him because he looked goofy and funny. And so it was like we were just friends for 3 months, and that was really helpful. I'm not one who was like a dater in high school or college. So this was like a really good transition into like, oh, okay, a healthy relationship. Friends, just friends, 3 months, and like actually getting to know each other. Then we got legally married December 31st, 2020. So the last day of 2020, we got married just by going to the U.S. Embassy and the Korean like their city hall,
Mhm,
and did the paperwork and got married then. So we were still in Korea though for like 7 more months, and
mhm.
then came back. And then had a wedding in Texas. That was like 1 year later to the day, 1 year and 1 day. So we've got
Okay,
like
so that's
days floating around, but
I'm just
yeah.
I'm getting all my information from Instagram. So I'm like, "Okay, when was this posted?" Right? Because I wanna
Yeah.
talk about being married. So I'm like, I think it was January 2nd. Because 'cause I'm like almost 11 months to the day, like, "Okay, yeah, that's cool." I come on here and, like, the only number that I have is just completely wrong.
That's funny. Yeah, well, I gotta say, Instagram is definitely, I think because there are so many people I don't, know on Instagram,
Mhm.
whereas Facebook is a little more still like family. And I
Right.
don't post on Facebook really rarely ever, but that'll be more where maybe like life updates happen. Instagram is kept a little like loose because it's an open, like account. And so I'm not putting too many finite details just because. Um, but yeah, so this will be our second year of being married, but because again in Korea, your school gives you your apartments. Like we had our own apartments. We lived by public transport. It was almost an hour. It was like a 15, 20
Ooh.
minute drive, but we didn't have cars. And so like bus to subway, it was like an hour drive. So it was actually a really good time, I think, for dating because again, I hadn't lived with anyone before. I
Mhm.
hadn't gone through all that. So we were together but had our own spaces, and as a very guarded person that I am, and it was just a really nice smooth transition into like learning, okay, like this is how you relationship, and all right, I don't feel like, I can be a control freak. So it's like I think if I
Mm.
would have instantly been thrown into like someone in my space, I'd been like, ah,
Time
it's
out.
messy.
Time
Yeah.
out. I need you to move that
Yeah.
way.
You're here again? Yeah. So,
No, I
but
think that's
no.
good also with, your upbringing. I'm sure that was something that was on your mind, like, okay, like we're dating, we're both here. How is this gonna work? Like,
Shacking up.
yeah, that's it. Laying up, what are you doing with that boy? All of those things. And
Yes.
I know for me, like when me and my wife started dating, and for the second time actually, and I was trying to do things the right way.
Mhm.
Um, we didn't live together before we got married, right? She
Mhm.
lived with her mom. I had my own place. But I always wanted her over. Like I wanted
Mhm.
her to like spend the night sometimes. And she
Yeah.
was like, no. And I was that's of course that was the best option. It was maybe like two or three times
Mhm.
where she actually stayed over, and we're still good, still doing things the right way. We didn't actually tie the knot until the knot was ready to be tied after marriage.
Wow, oh.
So yeah, yeah, grateful for that. Don't know how much
Yeah.
long I could have held out, but the Lord sustained us. So yeah, trying to do things the right way. I think it was I personally think that it was very healthy for y'all to have that space, and it looked like you were about to say something.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was a lot more to the book. We didn't physically live together, but, we would come over and spend weekends together. And that was the other thing. It was kind of like our together time was so finite because we couldn't hang out like in person Monday through Friday. So it just made
Mm.
like weekends more special and stuff. But yeah, definitely felt that kind of, not pressure, but it was like, oh, that's kind of on my mind. And I have really like loving parents, and I don't think I would have been disowned or like, chastised or anything. Also, by then I'm 28. So it's like, I think they would have been like, more understanding. But for myself, I also I was glad that it worked out that way. And there's no
Yeah.
judgment for any other way that, but I was glad that things went that way. Again, for me personally, I think
Mhm.
I just needed to be eased into like learning how to like navigate all of it. And I have just the most wonderful, amazing, like loving and accommodating husband, so it wasn't too difficult. But again, I can be very controlling, so I needed
So
that
how
space.
did things change? Because a lot of people, especially people who are not married,
Mm,
they don't understand that things change. Even if you're living together, even if you have built a life together, when you take that oath, right, and you sign that certificate, and you go in front of God and everybody else, and you say this is it, like things just change. So for you, I want to ask, like, how did things change for your marriage, your relationship, and then moving forward, what I'm pretty sure y'all had tons of conversations about like how long do we stay overseas and when do we go
Mhm.
back home and all of that stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. Because again, we got married legally in Korea, but we're still living apart. On that, it didn't feel fully different.
Mhm.
But then when it did come time to like deciding, like where are we gonna live, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can't just like go back to my parents' house and like be alone. Or I'm very independent and very much like I can just go and do my own thing. And so that was definitely interesting when it came time to transitioning back to the States. And luckily we both had pretty like parallel plans, and we ended up
Mhm.
going with something we didn't want. The pandemic changed because we were wanting to continue on, and go to Germany next to teach. And but we both agreed on our backup plan of coming here. And so the kind of next, I think, change was moving here, living together for the first time,
Mm.
full time. And that was definitely it, like, thank God there weren't any like explosions, but it's like we have to have conversations of things like, well, when the dishes, are like that, or how about we do this, or that's a little bit loud, and it's coming like both ways where
Right.
luckily we're both very much um very open to communicating and like understand the importance. So I have basically no dating history, but my husband was previously engaged in a relationship that like
Mm.
taught him a lot of, what he does not want and what does not work between two people. So we're both kind of coming in with our own like, okay, like pretty good sense of selves, which I think helped. Um and I think that's also being a not older, but like 28 at the time, it just kind of was like, all right, I think if I would have done it like at 25, I probably would have messed up a lot more things
Yeah.
getting in my
Could
own
heck no.
way. Yeah. So that I think now we're in it's like, okay, we've settled, but it does still feel a little bit like a transition of like, okay, where are we in life? We're now in the States, but what's next, or where is that? And so yeah, we have those conversations pretty frequently.
What's a conversation that you had to have, um, like when y'all started to live together, right? Because now you got to share space. I don't know what the bathroom situation is like, but that's always a spot where it can be like,
Yeah.
this something's got to change a
Mhm.
little bit here. I'm a gamer, and so we don't have a TV in the bedroom. So now, like, okay, how's this gonna work? So, what's one of those conversations that y'all had to have?
Yeah, I think bathroom cleanliness is definitely something that I was like, we have different levels. Like, we have to have the conversation of like, this level is fine for you, but like, this is like chaos and mess for me, which isn't at all. Again, I'm very like, but um, I think cleaning, like cooking, we had to kind of figure
Ooh.
that out too. The schedule, like when, it's like trying to figure out also shopping. Right now we're sharing one car. Luckily, DC has some sort of semblance of a public transportation system. It's
Mhm.
not the best. It's slow, but Korea really turned me. I love public transportation. I'll take double the time to get somewhere if I can not drive, especially with the drivers here. Like, I like it, which again, my husband Alec is like, why do you, I don't want to go on the bus. It takes an hour. I'm like, then we don't have to park. So kind of figuring that out was the thing of
Mm.
like, okay, when do we go shopping? When do we do this? Are you buying your own food? Husband has Crohn's disease, which is like IBS extreme. We had to take garlic and
Mm.
onion out of our diets, like, and so it's just kind of those conversations. Trying to think. Luckily, we haven't gotten too like crazy and heavy, but I think early on, like decorating, that was even a thing. I've never lived in my own apartment outside of Korea. After
Mhm.
graduating, I went back home. And so it was like, okay, we have to agree on what about this lamp or that. There's nothing in
Oh,
here. We've got
yeah.
to like make a lot of decisions.
I know the hard one for us is always cooking because neither of us like to cook.
Yeah,
So she has shout out to my wife who's downstairs with my son, has had an on and off fever all day. So shout
mm,
out to Kia. She listens to my episodes too. So
mm,
she has taken on majority of the cooking responsibility. And so I
mhm,
am very thankful for that. I'm definitely the better cleaner. And we've talked about this recently, and it's because of a result of our upbringing.
mm,
So for me, I grew up with thorough cleaning day. So every Sunday morning, we weren't going to church in my dad and my stepmom's house. Like there was no church. So literally you have to take everything out the fridge. You have to take everything out of the pantry. It was like
mhm.
get
Wow.
down and dirty and clean out everything. And that sucked. Everybody hated it. And so when I got a job, I'm like, yep, put me on for Sunday mornings every Sunday morning so I can get out of thorough cleaning day. However, my wife grew up really having like these home cooked breakfasts. Like she did not eat
Mm,
cereal.
mm,
There was no like sandwiches unless it was like an elaborate sandwich with like
mhm.
lettuce and stuff on it. We grew up like peanut butter and jelly, Captain Crunch, honeycomb, Apple Jacks, because those were the biggest boxes and it was a lot of us. TV dinners, frozen pizzas. So now our upbringings come together, much like you are seeing the same thing, I'm sure, where I can clean. I can clean with
Mhm.
the best of them. I do not like cooking. I do not want to cook, and I will cook whenever she tells me to. Because I know that is the point where she's like, I'm not cooking. It is your turn. And
Mhm,
it's never like her forcing me. It's
mhm,
never like that way. It's just like, hey, you up, you up for dinner.
mhm.
So whatever you want to go in there and make, it's up to
Yeah,
you, big dog.
figure it
And
out.
I'm like, all right, let's see what I can scrounge together. And it's not like I'm a bad cook. I would say I'm definitely limited. I
Mhm.
do not. I like to do it as fast and as efficient as possible. So our upbringings have come together in that way. Do you have anything like in that vein where you could see, okay, because of my upbringing, I'm kind of bringing this part to like
Mhm.
how we have our home set up, and the same thing for him.
Yeah, I think again, the financial literacy thing of,
Mm,
that was like, "Oh, I'm used to kinda sitting and talking and, like, this might be an uncomfortable conversation, but hey, let's talk about a budget."
yep.
I mean, again, I don't know how many budgets I've written out growing up. I don't know how many financial plans I've, like, written or so that's definitely something that, like, I've brought in, um, and it's been a good thing for, like, both of us, and
Mm,
it has been like a because money can be a bit funny, and it's like, if you're not used to the conversations, but then it's like, "This is just something we should do," and so
right,
we've definitely, been trying to be more, like, open financially and just like, "Okay, let's sit and talk about this," and, it doesn't have to be this big, heavy slog of a conversation, but let's find
right,
our way
right.
around it. Um, as far as cooking, definitely do not like to cook either. I do not like it. My husband likes to, but then both of us, it's like the time, the effort. So we both do like bulk cooking on Sundays and we have to kind of schedule that. Like I like to make my own lunches and he makes his own lunches and then we'll make like a dinners to like share. And so we kind of have been like figuring out our schedule like, okay, this week, are
Mm,
you going to wake up early and take the car to go and then do that? Okay. All right. um, so I think that's helped. And like small spaces also. I don't know in China, but my little apartment in Korea was like Moody Towers dorm, like
oh
tiny.
no.
It still fit like a washing machine and like a sink and a bathroom inside, but it was like a little tiny space.
Mm,
And so, like, when we would spend, like, weekends, we would be in each other's tiny space, and we've
yeah.
got a cat, and so it was just kind of like I think that helped, and right now, we're in a small apartment, we're in a one-bedroom, not that big apartment, so it's kind of forced us to, like, really have more conversations and be more proactive about, like, tackling things of especially if you see,
Mm,
like, "Huh, this kind of feels like a little bit of tension, like, maybe we should talk about it."
so important.
Yeah.
So important.
Gosh.
Our apartments in China. were huge. I'm not gonna lie. Like we had
Nice.
big apartments. We had 2 bedrooms because they were like so cheap. Like we're
Oh,
talking, if you convert it, it's like maybe 3 to 500
mhm.
dollars a month
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
like a 2 bedroom, nice size living room. None of this crap that we have here. Like if we had that apartment here in
Mhm.
Houston, where I live, the suburbs of Houston, it would have been like $1,300 a month
Yeah.
minimum,
Yeah.
minimum. So yeah, I can't. Yeah, I got
Can't.
you. I guess I got you beat on the apartment living overseas.
Yeah, Korea. The closer you are to Seoul, Alec was at a school because he bounced around to like three different schools and got a different
Mhm,
flavor of teaching. But one of his schools was a public school, like an hour and a half away from Seoul, and he had
mhm.
like a huge apartment. I'm like, okay, this is so
Yes,
far, but you have space. I was like, you have a couch? You can fit a couch in your apartment? Like, I'm telling you, Moody Towers level small. So,
that's
yeah,
tiny.
I think it helped. It really did end up helping us because it's like now we're like I said, our apartment now is still kind of small, but it's like, all right, we're in a good place to like slowly grow as things make sense. So,
Okay, we have come to a place now, right? We've talked about travel, we've talked about marriage, we've talked about family. Um, One of the most important things that I see all over your Instagram, of course, is your fashion. So, have you always been into fashion? Like as a kid, were you always a fashion person? Did that come later? How did you get into fashion and then like start to go, well, I think I should like start posting this stuff? Because some people don't want to really be involved with social media, even though they
mhm.
may have some, cool ideas. When did you start to go, okay, I really love fashion, and then transition to I really want to like share my fashion with everyone?
Yeah. So I have an older sister. She's 5 years older than me, and she is an artist, talented at drawing, at creating, at making things. And she had a love for really like avant-garde fashion and things that were just like kind of editorial and out there.
Hmm.
And
Wait,
growing up when I was
what
like
is
in middle,
avant-garde? I have no idea.
it's just like kind of strange. Honestly, it's like it's strange, but in a good way. It's just like, huh, it makes you like turn your head, like things that you see on the runway, where it's like,
Mhm.
does anyone
Oh, the
wear
weird
that?
looking stuff.
Yeah,
Like, is that a
and so
is that a hefty trash bag? Okay, I see what you did there.
yeah. And so she when she was in like I think it started for her middle school or high school, she got very much into like her personal expression through her clothes.
Mm,
And she did it in such a brave way that, like, it was not the cool thing. It was not like I'm wearing, like, the designers or whatever. I remember in one of our homes, she had like cutouts from magazines, again, like different editorial looks and like papered, like one of her closet walls with it. And I just always remember seeing that. At that time, I wasn't very into clothes or fashion though, but I was also a big follower. So it like took a while, and like everything else, I followed my sister eventually in college and was like, hey, actually I also like clothes. I like to express myself. And it was really I think my because when I met you, that I was not dressing in any way special. I don't believe I was still wearing like t-shirts and like jeans on campus, and that was just like all I really wore.
that's what
And
we all wore.
yeah. And it was just like, yeah, I don't really care
That right
about what
there.
I wear, which is fine. And then there was like a shift where I think by like my sophomore year, um, I just started realizing like, oh, you can like make some cool combinations, and like it really makes me feel good when I'm putting on some outfit that like kind of makes
Mm.
someone look, it's because it sounds bad. It's not like for the attention. It's not anything ever like, ooh, look at her. But it's like, huh, I wouldn't have thought to put that with that. Or like,
Yeah.
wow, you're layering that in such an interesting way. And so in college, I feel like at one point I gave myself permission almost where I was like, okay, like you can
You can do
dress like
this.
this. A lot of people are like, "Well, I can't wear that. Like, I don't ever wear things like that." I literally just started wearing stuff one day and just like if you just keep wearing it, then it's like, okay, that's just what you wear. And so it just kind of happened naturally. And it was really also I found a level of confidence that I didn't have like
Mm.
growing up and it like something that's very close to me. I never like to show like my legs. I have a birthmark that goes down the back of both my legs, and I let that stop me from so many things growing up,
Right.
sports, just anything that required me to show it, or wearing skirts. And so at some point, I found a really cute dress on sale, and I was with my roommates, and I bought it and I was like, "I don't even know if I can wear this. It's so it'll show like it's at my knees. Oh my gosh." And like truly, that's how it just was such an insecurity for me. I was like, "I can't."
Mm.
And this is also while living in Hawaii. I wore so many jeans in Hawaii. Now I look back and
Oh.
I'm just like, I wish at that time I just would be like, "It's okay, beloved. Just put on a short. Like nobody cares." But yeah, and in college, I just kind of like allowed myself one day with this one dress that I got from Buffalo Exchange on an Earth Day sale for $1. And we had like a friend who stayed in the apartment a lot. And he was just like, "Yeah, just wear it." And I was like, "Okay."
Okay.
Like
There you
I
go.
wore that. And it was like a real switch for me of like, okay, now I
Mm.
actually have permission to wear whatever I want to wear. And it feels good. So yeah, I just started kind of I love thrifting. Thrifting went through a big, phase and it still is, but thrifting and DIY fashion and all of that was really cultivated at my like last like year in Houston and so yeah.
It's amazing, like, how these flash bulb moments, right, where it seems like, man, this is so hard to explain. It seems like one little simple decision, like one little simple yes,
Mhm.
can change so much. And eventually we get to this point where, well, I hope everybody kind of gets to this point because then you kind of live with, this freedom that's so different where you go
Mhm.
like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like,
No.
like who cares? Who even cares? Nobody. And then you go like, I don't even care. Like, let's
Yeah.
just go for it. I'm holding myself back from doing something I want to do for something like so minuscule, something that doesn't even matter, like something people don't
Mhm.
even care about. And so from there, like you kind of started this huge thing for yourself. Like, and I'm sure people now are like, you the fashion person. Like we expect you to wear like some cool, like out of the box kind of different things. And it just all kind of came from this decision that may have, get at the wrong age. You're like, nah, not doing
Mhm.
it. Then nah, not doing it. And then something in you was just like, why not? Why am I not doing this? This is
Why
so
not?
silly. So
Yeah.
let's just do it.
Mhm.
What are some when did you start to share your fashion? Because this is one thing to like do it for yourself, and then it's
Mhm.
another thing to like put it out there and kind of start to be known for the fashion traveling person.
Uh, yeah, I think because it like and I have to work on not being like it sounds silly, but it's like clothes are and were, especially in college, like my hobby. Like it was just kind of on a if I have some downtime, my favorite thing, I would put on music in my little apartment at U of H and just try on clothes and make different like combinations. And like I would call it like playing dress up almost. And like
Yep.
That can sound but it was, like, so much fun, and I'll do it occasionally now too, I do it a lot less, but I'm like, "Oh, I forgot how much fun that was," like and then when you make a cool combo, you wanna show it off, so it's like, "Hey, I wanted to
Watch
show
this.
this," and Instagram was, like, in its infancy, I think, around the time I started to post. I've looked back at my old posts, I've archived some of them because they were just pointless, it was just, like, a plant or, like, random things like my first time using it. But yeah, I think it just kind of evolved where it was like, oh, cool, this is a place to share cool pictures. Like on Facebook, I didn't really see that happening, but it just
Mm.
seemed like this is the platform. I'm already on here. I like seeing people who dress really like uniquely. I had followed some influencers. I never had I don't know that I could do that the influencer route fully because I mean, I look at people now that I've been following for years and I'm like, I don't want to have like 7 years of my life like every day just posted on like any social
Mm.
media. It's just a bit too much. Um but I enjoy seeing that. It brings me joy, so I'm like, I wanna do it and just it's like something interesting to look at, you know? That's what I like to kinda give up, like, "Here you go, look, I try and have a cool environment, and I'm wearing a cool outfit. It made me happy, I hope it makes you happy."
Before we move on, are there any other moments in your life that kinda made where you had this switch, like, "Oh, like, I don't really care. So now I can actually do something that I wanna do," or, "I don't care who cares. I don't care about people seeing or noticing or what they're gonna say, like, I'm gonna do this thing." Do you have any other moments like that that you would like to share?
I don't think so. I kind of almost feel like I'm in one of those moments now, to be honest, of
Mm,
just
okay.
kind of I feel right now is a very and I don't know how to put it in words. My husband and I have been talking about it, but I'm like, I don't know, this transition into like adulthood from young adulthood into like 30 somethings where it's like I can feel it. I don't know how to put it into words yet, but I'm like this is kind of a funky time. Like there's a lot going on or I don't know, but I feel like a change in my mindset is happening. I've had that work-wise and kind of I was getting really stressed. I started a job that was terrible here for like just a few months and left that job. And my job is like fine now and it's a lot better of a team. But even still, I just kind of was taking on a lot of things of like, you have to get this done and you have to do that and you must do that. And we got COVID for the first time at the end of September. And I'm someone who
This
I
year?
like to work. Yeah, that was the
Oh,
first time we
wow.
got it. I'm like, we were close to ground zero, and then we finally got it here, though. And like, it was the end of September, and uh, that was like the busy month at work and I got COVID, but I didn't have any symptoms. So I'm like, it's okay. I can still work. And I was working from
Mm,
home. And it was just like I was taking on all this stuff. I don't know why I didn't reach out for like, hey, I need to like take tomorrow off. And things got really dark. And it just was like, I'm so stressed and I'm sick and I just don't like it. And so I think I did kind of have an aha moment of like, you don't have to take so much on. Like, it's okay. No one's asked you to do it, and no one really had. It was just like this kind of weird thing I put on myself because I like to do a good job at whatever I do. I didn't
mhm,
I don't want to be a teacher full time. I don't, but while I was teaching, I took it seriously and I made sure, like I was doing the best that I could do. And so I do that, but then sometimes too far. So I've been learning just within these past few months of like finding a balance and like it's not that deep. Like you
yes.
can walk away from this computer and the world won't end right now. Like you can collect your thoughts. So that little kind of pivotal thing has been helpful most recently. Yeah.
For me, it's funny you mentioned that because I've had that realization as well. I know a
Mhm.
lot of it came from, of course, having a child, which I have a 18-month-old son, and also having my podcast, which is something that I want to do and I love to do.
Mhm.
So when you have to take off work for like your sick baby, like you
Mhm.
have to realize life will continue.
Mhm.
Everybody who's at school, because I'm a high school teacher, they'll be back. They'll go to
Mhm.
school today
Mhm.
and they'll get their work done, or maybe they won't.
Mhm.
Every email that was sent to you, you can answer it when you get back. It's okay. Like whatever deadline was there, guess what? Most of the time, those deadlines are soft anyway. So you'll be able
Exactly.
to get the work done whenever you get back. It's fine. And I've taken off way more days this year than I have
Mhm.
in my 5 years of being a teacher
Mhm.
because I just came to this realization like, bro, the world is not gonna fall over if you
Mhm.
don't, get those logs turned in,
Mhm.
and so I think everybody has to come to that realization, especially when you start to find the things that you love to do, and you
Mhm.
have to, or you should, as much as you can, make time and space for them.
Mhm.
So that brings us actually to our 3 what's, which is how I end every show. I ask my guests, and they can take as long or as short as they would like to do our 3 what's. So, our first one, what's an opinion that you have that would be considered unpopular?
Mhm. I tried to think about this because I saw I was like, what is my unpopular opinion? And I feel like I don't have a very like deep one. Um, I really don't. I feel like more and more I've been like disillusioned by like this idea of the world that they've set up of like, but I feel like we're all realizing like, oh, everything's a lie. I mean,
Yeah,
not
this is
everything,
all
the
bull crap.
government. It's just like, oh, we're all just like doing stuff that they say. Like my loans aren't being forgiven. What I thought you said. Anyway, but like I'm just like, wait, what is life? But I don't have any really unpopular opinions. Maybe a food related one that my husband
Okay.
helped me think of. Korea has the best pizza in the world,
Whoa.
and every for better than anything in America. I don't like a cheese pizza. I don't like pepperoni pizza. Korean pizza, they're gonna put a cube of steak and a shrimp and a potato wedge on the same slice and squeeze some like sweet potato thing on top
Yes.
and like it's just I loved it. Corn on every pizza. Where's my corn?
The
So I
corn,
preach it. I'm like I love Korean pizza. I love it.
the corn and the mayonnaise. Oh my gosh. I no. If it wasn't
It's
like Papa John's, like, bro, like, what are y'all doing to pizza when I was up? I'm like, what
they're
is
giving you a
this?
full meal. You're getting a full meal on a slice, like steak and shrimp and
Okay.
a potato.
I will consider that an unpopular opinion on this podcast. Okay. I wasn't expecting it. Okay. You like the corn on the pizza. All
I
right.
love
If you weren't, I don't even think we discussed this, but if you weren't in whatever job you have, you can share that.
it.
What would you be doing? Like what field would you go into?
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm working a very unglamorous job right now in an IP firm, like intellectual property law. I just work admin, and it's basically just corporations that are like setting up patents for different inventions, parts of machinery, different things, and we're just, filing things. So that's pretty boring, but really, of course, with I have such a love and desire for style, but I also don't want to be like a direct seller of anything. I don't want to be
Mm,
an influencer. Like it in my dreams, I would love to
yeah.
like be a costume designer, for like a movie, for a show,
Okay.
or if there's a music video, even better actually, because I like the kind of real funky like stuff. So, you have more liberty or like editorial shots, like dressing windows. I really love like Dallas is one of the few I feel cities that have really nice like windows, and my friend Marissa will send me pictures of like Neiman's and like all the different like displays, and they really get into them. And like, I'd love to like design those. It just it's something you pass by and it's like, huh, I don't know. I'd like to design that. Also, second answer, gymnast was my childhood dream. I wanted to be a gymnast
Ooh,
and I quit that early and I wish I didn't.
dang.
Yeah.
Okay. I have something that's kind of in that vein, which really aligns with things that I like. And I would love to do the music, like pick the songs for movies.
Mhm.
That is something that I'm like, I think that I could really do this
Really?
well.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
difficult. That skill. That's good.
Yes. Now, I'm not composing
Oh,
anything.
no, but
I'm
just
not
select I'm not sewing the clothes.
there exactly. We are selectors. We will pick
I
some great stuff out. We are not
curating.
making anything. Okay. Okay. We find the film, you pick out the clothes, I pick out the music.
I'm
Done
in.
deal. Okay. Last what? And I'm pretty sure you'll do great with this one because you have so much wonderful life experience. What advice would you give to someone in high school?
Mhm. Yeah. I think I guess it's already been on trend. Think about money. Always be thinking about money. Um, and then also, as I've said, just remember that nobody cares. Like I kind of knew that in high school. I will say I never was like I gotta chase the popular, but like and maybe it is a lesson you have to learn when you're older. It's like it doesn't fully sink in that like it's okay. You can do not whatever, but you can do it. Like you can be who you want to be. Explore
Mhm.
this. Like if that full like freedom was unlocked, I just feel like a lot of just new doors can open for people and like career paths or just different things you never would have thought of. But yeah, I think just explore and think outside the box. Everyone isn't a doctor, a lawyer. Those aren't
No,
the only professions.
engineer, you forgot that one.
An engineer, yeah.
That's
Oh God, that's like everyone's
doctor,
go
lawyer, engineer, those are the ones.
That's it. Yeah, and if I could briefly say, in high school, I remember I was in, like, a skills career class or something my, like,
Mhm.
senior year, and we had to do a presentation on what you wanna do, and I said I wanted to be an event coordinator, and that was my plan, and I had a PowerPoint and I had pictures and the teacher, he was like also like the woodshop teacher, which,
Yeah.
stereotypically, he was just kind of like, "Is that a
What?
job?" Like he asked and I was like, "Yeah, like you can plan like weddings and events." And it really made me feel like, "Oh, is this silly?" I ended up changing my major. I went in my freshman year of college with it, but again, it's just like just know, like just follow it, try it out, flesh it out, have a plan B.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. I'm always like I'm kinda like no plan B guy, but I'm also okay, if plan A doesn't work, you need a new plan A.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's really because, if you're like trying to work these 2 tracks, like how can you give plan A your full attention and really go after it if you're like, "Oh, I
Right.
got a plan for B, C, D, it's fine."
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
like,
true.
"Hey, go plan A, full 150% go with plan A. Go out
Mhm.
there and kill plan A until you go, you know what, plan A is no longer working, is no longer viable,
Mhm.
and then get a new plan A."
Yeah. Yeah, that's my husband's mentality a lot more, like, just laser in on what you plan on doing. I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
Well,
sense."
Jasmine, like
Yay.
this has been awesome. We're at an hour and a half here. That's
Oh,
great.
God, I see and I didn't know what time it started. I couldn't tell, there's no
No, it's
time.
fine. It's fine. Is there
Okay.
anything that you want to plug? I mean, usually, people are like, "Oh, go to my website or whatever," but
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
I've seen the people I literally do not I don't have anything to plug. My husband has a podcast that's about the sci-fi story called Novel Magics, but, I don't have an
okay.
Instagram. Yeah.
Shout out to Alec, right? That's his name?
Yeah.
Okay. Say his podcast one more time.
Novel Magics.
Novel
So, yeah.
Magics.
He's
Okay.
also a teacher, and he's like, podcasting and teaching and this and like
Oh
so
my gosh. I
I
need to talk
know
to your
and you have
husband.
kids on so I don't know how you do
Me neither.
it. Just do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you everybody for listening. Signing off for Jasmine Carestacy. I just like saying that.
Yeah.
This is the Living Numbers Podcast. Make sure you all like, subscribe, download, share. I have merch. Go check out the merch, Etsy shop, the Living Numbers Pod Shop. Came up with that on my own as well.
Mhm.
Definitely go check out some merch, hoodies, t-shirts, so on and so forth. And I will see you all in the next Rambles.
Yay. All right.
Voila. Oh man, that was so good.
Yay. I'm so glad.